If previously the website that you had was successful, and that was selling, and all of a sudden the new one's not selling, then you would expect that to be something you would be worried about
Fairly
the first day. We've got clients that launch a website, they tell everyone about it, and then they just continue taking orders, maybe at a higher rate. And that's what ideally should happen. But if something, worry straight away if you've had a website. If you've got a new one, then people have got to find out about it. They've got to understand who you are and where you are and find you.
If you are a relatively small independent retailer and you've just set up your new website for the first time, you reckon it'd probably take a month. If you're telling people about it using your social media accounts, telling your existing customers.
It's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
But I would certainly be worried if I hadn't had anything, within the first few days. But I guess, if there are people in the audience that have set up a website, they're not having any activity, nothing, and a month's gone by, then something has to change. Something has to be done.
Okay.
And that's when you would start going back to looking at Google Analytics, hoping you've got that set up to be able to say, right, we've got the visitors coming. Well, why aren't they doing the next bit?
Can you talk me through what success would look like? So if you've got your analytics in place, or you're going back and doing it now retrospectively, and you're looking at how many people are coming to the website, what kind of proportion of those perhaps are getting onto a couple of pages, what proportion are abandoning a cart, and then who's actually making a purchase? Can you just talk me through how many people you'd expect to be losing through that process?
You can set up within Google Analytics a process called funneling. And the funneling process allows you to see graphically, as well as in numbers, who's coming at the top, who added something to basket, who went to checkout. You can see I'm narrowing my hands here because this is actually what happens. Drops into a basket. Someone may leave at that point because the shipping costs are too high, or they may just be window shopping and may not want to go any further. There's a number of reasons I can go into that, and then they'll drop into a final stage. The final stage being the confirmation of order. You will normally see a greater number at the top and a smaller number at the bottom. That's exactly what it's called a funnel. Abandonment, shopping cart abandonment, as it's known, is not something to be afraid of. It happens. If you imagine wandering into a shop, any shop, on the high street, having a browse around and then walking back out. You've carried a basket, an invisible basket with you, walked around and thought, no, I'm not going to buy anything today. And you've walked out. So abandonment does happen, and it's real. There are things to do to try and reduce the severity of the funnel. So if you want to try and make the funnel a little bit shallower, a little bit
deeper.
Then you can start looking at tweaks and adjustments within the website. It could be, if you find that there's mass abandonment at the basket page because that's where your delivery charges are specified, then do something about your delivery charges.
We've assumed we've done all these things, and we've got a website that is, materially ready to go.
Yes.
What should we be doing to push that website to our customers? So we've got our high street retailer. Consumers would be normally coming into the store potentially, or a brand new online retailer.
Yeah.
You haven't got footfall on the internet, so how are you pushing out the website?
You've got to think about changing the window display. The first page that they might hit is the home page, but alternatively, the first page they might hit is a product page. They might land straight on a product, straight from a search result. And then there's a case for they're wondering why, if the product isn't selling, has it got a description? Do the images do the product justice? Are the options correctly set up? Can you actually buy it? We have had clients that they've had their own clients complaining that they can't actually purchase a product because an error message came up, or because it's just not, there's no buy button. It's because they forgot to put the price in, or they forgot to add an important element in that enabled that to appear.
Presumably the way to avoid that is just to make sure that you go through your website on a regular basis and try and purchase every product.
Absolutely right. So there's a check process. It's, don't just assume everything's there and working, and certainly don't blame it on the web people, because if you've got your own access, you've got your own content management system, the responsibility is yours to make sure you've kept it up to date. But don't be afraid to test your own website regularly. And if you spot something and you think it could be improved, talk to your web people, because they can then help you make those improvements.
Can we just touch on sort of the shop window, as it were, other ways to make people aware of your website. So we talked about social media being one of the ways to do that. Are there any sort of other tricks that your existing clients are using to take new people onto their website?
Online, your methods of interacting with people fall to contacting your existing clients by email, contacting people who follow you. Obviously, all of your social media needs to be told. All of your followers need to be told, and they need to be told in a dynamic way. If you've got something exciting coming, you've got a new product range coming, take photographs of it and make sure they're out there and post something interesting to go alongside it. But email marketing is a vital part. Just talking to one of my clients through the other side, they've managed to, within 3 months, pay for their website completely. And this isn't a plug for my business, by the way. They pay for the website within 3 months. And they've done that because since the launch, they've been constantly emailing their old customers, and even customers going back 3 or 4 years they haven't spoken to in 3 or 4 years. It's reminded them to come and see them, reminded them to come into the website, and it's helped them to sell more.
What are AdWords and what can you do with them?
Well, AdWords is a brand name for a form of pay-per-click advertising, a sponsored keyword advertising. So you are, and probably everyone knows this, but those that don't, you're charged on the click. That collectively builds up to a bill. But you, as part of the whole process, AdWords, as we're talking about here, has a control panel, and the control panel gives you a very valid breakdown of your activity, clicks, if it's set up correctly, conversions, how much you've spent per click, average cost per click. There's a vast amount of information. So in spending, you're also acquiring a lot of knowledge about the activity that's going on your website.
Why would you want to use AdWords or spend your time or money on AdWords as opposed to, say, focusing on search engine optimization and trying to get to the top of that top page without spending money on AdWords?
Okay, good question. Things have changed slightly, and if I just show, hopefully you can see up here, it's a typical search result. So I put in greeting cards, and at the top we have Google Shopping results with the images, and then we have some ads coming in just beneath. Beneath that you have what's called the organic listings, and really the top two are, you pay for those, you pay to appear there. These down here, well, ultimately you end up paying, because if often people will pay someone else to try to get them up this list. But it's becoming harder to be seen, especially when you've got a page that's cluttered up with also local results, local pack here, and then down at the bottom more ads, and then further related searches. So what you end up with is, if you consider the person performing the search, they're faced with an awful lot of information.
And if you were going to go for AdWords, can you give me a general idea about how much that is likely to cost? I know it depends on the bidding and how popular it is.
Totally, completely, because it can be from in the tens of pence to the tens of pounds per click, depending on competition, price of product, the lead value, if you like, time of day, week, month. It will vary. So I could never give an accurate price on that. So it becomes a case of having to be quite careful with things like budgeting, because the tools within AdWords, and I'm coming away from shopping here, but AdWords is that you can specify a daily budget, which is very, very useful. It prevents runaway spend. You can specify maximum cost per the click, which again holds things back, and really it's more a case of speculation of what you can afford. Always with these things you have to temper your exposure with cost. This whole cost versus return element, which is to try, when you're starting out these campaigns, you start them small. You start them on a limited basis. to then work out what's happening, how efficiently the site's converting. You know, you throw money out and the site doesn't convert, and you've put a month's worth of expenditure into it, you could have wasted an awful lot of money. And I think when people say, I've used AdWords and it didn't work for me, that's often what's happened. They've not understood the process, they've not considered maybe, and they've put a pile of keywords in, all different kinds of SKUs, because you'll be given suggestions, lots of suggestions by the system itself. And it will also continue to give you suggestions, add these in to get more traffic. But there's almost an assumption that your website is efficiently converting business.
How often would you check it if you're a small retailer? Would you be on analytics for 20 minutes a day or an hour a week?
Might. 10 minutes a day might be enough as a retailer, as a small business running a small campaign. If it's one campaign, a small collection of keywords. But you know, 10 minutes a day soon mounts up. You know, if you're doing it every day of the week.
Yeah.
Once this starts to grow, it starts to get bigger, then you really should be spending more time on it and not being afraid to cull keywords that aren't working and seek out new keywords.
Would you start with a very narrow range of AdWords and put enough money in them to give it a good run, or would you go for lots of AdWords to give yourself a bit of a spread with a little bit of money on each one?
Keep it small. Single campaign, single small group of keywords, half a dozen keywords that are relevant. Look at the predictions for them. Don't be afraid at that point. Well, there's nothing to be afraid of. You know, well that might not be that list might not be particularly efficient. Take 2 or 3 out and try and predict those, and then go forward with those. You can always change it. You can always switch it off. You can always adjust it. But there's too many people leave them running. Just leave them running for too long without doing anything with them, and that's it's almost you just can't do that. It's just wasting. It is wasting money.
Can you track and figure out if what you're doing is successful or what changes you might need to make?
Well, you can look at the record. The record of what's occurring within your control panel will give you ultimately the results. And if you've set e-commerce tracking up within the system, and you've got the code in the website, then ideally what should be happening is you'll start to see those conversions coming through, and they will be proof to you. You'll know that you're getting the orders as well, but you might not actually know where they're coming from if you're doing a whole load of other things.
Yeah.
But if you can look at AdWords, look at the control panel evidence, and it's telling you that you've had five conversions on one particular keyword and 3 from another, and an aggregate of 10 orders for the week, then you know that's working, and then you know which keywords are working, and you can continue to use those, or then decide at that point to spend more. Because if you can work out a percentage conversion rate from the total clicks that you've had, you can then make a calculated guess that the likelihood is that you spend twice the amount of money, you'll probably get twice the amount of business. Is
there a particular sort of area of AdWords that you think people would benefit from getting some expert help, or is it all actually completely manageable in-house and there's no need to outsource it?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. You always ask good questions.
I know. Relentless.
If you've got an enormous campaign and you think it's not running efficiently, then maybe the thing to do is talk to someone about it. If you're starting out, see how you get on. If you start to get confused, talk to someone about it. It's a massive system. It does so many things. It used to be really intuitive. It's less intuitive. It's become less intuitive. I'm sure it will become intuitive, but I guess the thing is, if in any doubt, try and just seek out some help, and seek out some help from someone that you know. You try and go out looking for it on the internet, then you're open to sales companies who'd be quite happy to charge you an awful lot of money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.